Good afternoon. La 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 la. Ah, people can hear me. You can't hear back there? I understand that the mic is a little bit low. Can you hear me now? All right, maybe let's just test out this system again. Let's see if everybody can hear. Okay, who's our sound person? We need help from sound person. Okay, now can you hear me? Oh, barely. Oh, and she's sitting right there. Okay, well, we're working on it, aren't we? Aha, he says we're working on it. Well, as we work, I could sing Doe a Deer or do the scales. So how is it now? In the very back, Wendy, can you hear me? Okay, good. We are a go, Houston. In any case, welcome. I had talked with the staff at the Governor to see if we could stay here until midnight when it cools off, but we got turned down on that. So, welcome to today's forum, Why Libraries Matter in the 21st Century, with our guest librarian Molly Raphael. It's the first time we've had her here in her service in Portland, so we're excited to hear what she has to say. But first, let's talk a little bit about what's going to be happening for next Friday's program. It's a special family-centered event, and it's going to be held at the Oregon Zoo. And there is a program for children between the ages of 6 and 10, and you can bring your children to the zoo, and it's $15 per child. And they will be able to go to with the zoo campers and have lunch and just have a behind-the-scenes event. And that starts at 11 and goes until 1:30. Now, the problem with that is that the forums don't usually start until 11:30, or at least the doors open. So I understand we'll be opening the doors early so you don't have to sort of mill about and wave wistfully to your children as they go into the realm of the zoo. Your Friday Forum luncheon ticket will not pay for zoo entry. So if you want to go in with the children, you could purchase a ticket as you send them off and then go, well, if you like, to go in afterwards and spend some time with your kids at the zoo. So in any case, it's a little bit complicated, but 11 o'clock to 1:30 for the kids and 11:30 to 1:15 for the adults. And the program is going to feature Tony Vecchio, who's the director of the zoo. Oh, I should tell you first that since you don't have zoo, since our tickets aren't paying for zoo admission, actually the luncheon will be held in the Cascade Grill, which is immediately adjacent to the ticket kiosks at the zoo. And you go downstairs to the Vista Room. So that's where we'll be having the lunch meeting. So then the program is going to be entitled The Future of Wildlife Conservation Efforts at the Oregon Zoo, and it's going to feature Zoo Director Tony Vecchio and Deputy Director Mike Keel and the Zoological Curator Chris Pfefferkorn. They're going to talk about the zoo's participation in specific programs in cheetah and leopard conservation in Zimbabwe. Now, I don't know what that has to do with the Oregon Zoo, but we'll find out next Friday. They're also going to talk about regional conservation projects, including the zoo's silver spot butterfly, the Columbia Basin pygmy rabbits. Don't know why that makes me laugh. I just see pygmy rabbits running around the basin. And the Western Pond turtle. And normally that would be our last meeting for the summer. However, we're not going to take a complete hiatus in August this year because we had the opportunity, because of a Nike-sponsored event, to book the U.S. Surgeon General Richard Carmona. And we couldn't pass up the opportunity, and the staff graciously agreed to help set this up as well. And so the program will be held here on August 13th at the usual time. So a couple of unusual events coming up. Zoo event next week. By the way, the Max goes there and there's excellent parking. And then a week off, or is that 2 weeks off, and then August 13th with the Surgeon General here. So on to the more usual business, and that is that we're still looking for volunteers for ballot measure studies. And the studies will be on the abolition of the State Accident Insurance Fund, the medical malpractice gap, the management of the state coastal forests, and the constitutional definition of marriage. These ballot measure studies are fun because they're short and they're compact and you learn a lot. And then after the studies are finished, they're presented to the group as a whole to vote on. If you're interested in that, you can contact Wade Fickler, the man in green back there, he's our research director, and he's helping to organize those committees. Now, our Citizens Read book club event is tomorrow night at the Zimmerman Community Center, but once again, it is sold out. For those of you who have read it, feel quite exclusive. Reading Lolita in Tehran was the book of the month, and Molly Raphael is going to lead the discussion on it. So it should be very interesting. Oh, that would be Monday night. Thank you for the correction. I think I'm trying to get through this hot weekend. In any case, I do see a lot of new faces here today that are probably here because they're fans of Molly. I've met a few of them. And we would like to invite any of you who are not members to join the club today. There are membership brochures on the table. In addition to the ballot measure studies and the citizens book clubs that I've mentioned, we have very interesting Friday forums, and coming up in September, we'll have the new superintendent of schools, and Mayor Katz will be giving her State of the City address, and we'll be having candidate debates and the presentation of the ballot measures. So it's plus a lot of exciting new opportunities with some new programs that we'll be announcing shortly. So it's a good time to join, a lot of exciting things going on, and we would love to have you here. Incidentally, all of the events that I mentioned are featured in the bulletin, so you can find those by just taking a look at that or going onto the website at pdxcityclub.org. And broadcast of the City Club programs are sponsored in part by corporate underwriting from Pacific Air, Portland General Electric, and Zimmer Gunsel Frasca, and of course we're very grateful for their support. Thank you. Well, that is nice. I don't know that our sponsors have ever gotten a hand from the crowd before, so we'll have to be sure to tell them. Now, I do need to mention that we need to turn off our cell phones, and I will tell you I forgot to turn mine off. So I will be scrambling for mine, and you might want to do yours now. Now, let's get to our program for today. Molly Raphael was appointed the Director of Libraries for Multnomah County just about a year ago. And she came here from the District of Columbia, where she had been director for nearly 6 years of the public library system there. In fact, her career started at that system, and it began in 1970. I hope she doesn't mind me telling that. She was 13, she graduated early, and she was started as an assistant children's librarian. She's recognized as a leader in the library field. Oh, or turn off other electronic devices. She's recognized as a leader in the library field, and she recently completed a term on the governing board of the American Library Association. She holds a bachelor's degree from Oberlin College, and her master's degree in library science is from Simmons College. So welcome, Molly Raphael.
Thank you, Corleen, for that very gracious introduction. You know, since I arrived here 7 months ago, I have received a very warm welcome from so many people all across this community. I am reminded, however, of something that Alfred Hitchcock once said, quote, "When an actor comes to me and wants to discuss his character, I say it's in the script. If he says, but what's my motivation? I say, your salary." I would not have chosen this scenario for my arrival here in Multnomah County, but sometimes things happen the way they happen. Let me just say that I'm very happy to be here and especially glad that the City Club has been such a welcoming place for me to get to know so many of the people who live and work here. Not long ago, many pundits were predicting the end of public libraries in the United States. Institutions made obsolete by technology and internet, as well as the mega bookstores that were opening all across our country. Even now, when I meet people in this community where libraries are thriving, I occasionally still hear the same question. Aren't libraries going to disappear because of the internet? I always respond with a resounding no. And sometimes I add a shh, just for good measure. I guess in their own way, these people are asking, why do libraries matter in the 21st century? My goal today is to convince you that libraries are not only thriving, but deserve to be strongly supported even during times of diminishing tax revenues. Libraries are enjoying a great renaissance, not just here in Multnomah County, but throughout the country and especially in urban areas. Seattle, as many of you probably know, has just opened a spectacular new central library and is undertaking an ambitious overhaul of its branch libraries. Chicago, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Phoenix, Nashville are just a few more examples of library systems which have undertaken or are in the process of completing ambitious rebuilding projects. As you know, we here in Multnomah County have just finished building and renovating all of our 17 library facilities. In addition to our beautifully renovated crown jewel, the Central Library, we've built 4 brand new libraries in Hillsdale, Hollywood, Midland, and Woodstock, and added the first 2 new libraries in Multnomah County in 29 years, Northwest and Fairview, Columbia. Why is it that so many places are rediscovering these most democratic of American institutions, open to all regardless of education, income, age, background, or views? Why do we see over and over again that communities, when given a specific choice, will vote to support their libraries? What is it about libraries that have won not only the hearts and minds of their communities, but also have been able frequently to defy the anti-tax sentiment that seems to be increasing in our country? Why would voters in economically challenged places like Tillamook County choose very recently to support a bond to build a new central library, as well as renew an operating levy? The slogan, "Libraries Change Lives," is not only true, but can be heard in personal stories from many people in positions of power and influence, as well as others in socially and economically challenged circumstances. I would venture to say that probably most of you here have your own stories. I hear them every day from people I meet. The testimonials are sincere and often compelling, like the one I heard a few weeks ago when a mother of an 8-year-old told me that last summer her son had been a poor and underachieving reader. Then her son joined our summer reading program. Thanks to the incentives and prizes that we offer through funding from the Library Foundation, her son now reads above grade level and this year has brought several of his friends to the program. Libraries have always been the great equalizers in our society, the place where waves of immigrants and refugees, both past and present, have discovered ways of learning about American culture and adapting to their new lives. And the place where people turn during economic downturns to retool their skills or improve themselves for new opportunities. And the place where parents with little disposable income can help their children prepare to enter school ready to learn. And the place where small business entrepreneurs, without extensive corporate libraries and research departments, can find the information and the links they need to make smart business decisions and contribute to the economic vitality of neighborhoods. And the place where lifelong learning thrives not only for the very young, but also for the over 55 population, as well as all the ages in between. These examples could go on and on. The point is that libraries have managed to hold a place in people's lives that few institutions in our society can claim. We like to say we serve communities from the womb to the tomb. Why is this renaissance taking place, and why now? To begin, I believe it is because libraries are well-known and trusted institutions located in communities as large and diverse as New York, Los Angeles, and Multnomah County, and as small as towns of just a few thousand or even 100 people. We are part of the American landscape. In fact, there are more public libraries in the United States than there are McDonald's. In nearly In nearly every town or community throughout our country, you can find a public library. This means that if you were, say, born and raised in Massachusetts, you could move to Ohio when you were a teenager and find a library not too different from the one you visited when you were growing up. Then, if you moved again, let us say, to Portland or Gresham, Oregon, there would be another public library in your community that once again offered many of the same programs and services that you had come to know in these other communities. This scenario could be repeated many times. Public libraries are ubiquitous in the United States, and they are more similar than they are different. The similarities demonstrate our shared commitment to access to information. The differences reflect our need to meet the special needs of our individual communities. While libraries share common values, we know we must work closely with not only elected officials, but also with the many businesses, organizations, and individuals who comprise the fabric of our community. The library's role has always been to create an informed and thoughtful citizenry, whether through supporting children and young people who are developing early language and literacy skills, or engaged in formal schooling, or expanding horizons and learning as the out-of-school adult. What we are seeing once again during this library renaissance is the great resilience of libraries, adapting to the changes in our society and in our individual communities. Indeed, thriving on these changes of the past 2 decades. We see these changes in our society as challenges to fulfill important community priorities. These are the persistent need to learn throughout all our lives. Network technology that makes information resources available even to the smallest of library buildings and communities, and in the homes and offices of communities such as ours. The significant influx of immigrants, particularly in the metropolitan areas such as ours, and perhaps most overlooked by the pundits of doom, the loss of the many places within our communities that help to bring people together in the way libraries can and do. The opportunity is the one that I call the library as place. Let me illustrate how each of these challenges has become an opportunity for libraries. First, the need to learn all our lives. Libraries are often seen as related to education and learning, but not central to it. When a community leader talks about the priority of education, often the picture we have in our minds is of the K-12 school system and perhaps higher education as well. What I believe we in the library world need to do is make a more persuasive case for libraries being included in that picture. Let me illustrate what I mean with some examples of our programs. Many people recognize the value of exposing children to the library, beginning at a very early age. Certainly, most middle-class parents make a point of taking their children to local public libraries at an early age. Board books, the ones that have the very thick pages that toddlers can't tear up, are among our highest demand items. As you know, if you have young children in your lives, we invest significant resources in our children and youth services offered in our libraries throughout the county. But what about those kids who are in households that are not traditional library users? Libraries have a mandate to serve all of the people, not just the ones who happen to know about our youth services programs in our library buildings. Anyone who is in business knows that you can't serve everyone without paying attention to who you are trying to serve. So we have to find the right product to serve the individual or the organization. Sure, libraries target services to particular audiences, but not at the expense of our mandate to serve all of our residents. Take our Early Childhood Resources Program, funded by regular funds and grants, where we work with infants through preschool children and their families and caregivers. We target those who have not traditionally been library users. We base our approach on brain development research, which signals the importance of emergent literacy activities at the very earliest age. We can't wait till they're in kindergarten. We can't even wait till they're in Head Start programs. We have to start with the parents, preparing them for parenthood. We have our Raising a Reader program, also funded through the Library Foundation, which works with parents to get them to read aloud to their young children, an activity that most of us take for granted. Reading aloud to young children appears to be the single most important activity for building understanding and skills essential for reading. We also work with caregivers to make sure that language development and reading readiness is part of their daily program. And we always do this work in collaboration with the many others involved in our community in serving children. Then when children enter school, we continue to target underachieving readers with programs like Books to You, which I hope many of you saw in yesterday's Oregonian. There was an article on that particular program. And to supplement the library's offerings in schools with our School Corps program. Frankly, the demand for these programs far exceeds what we can support, even though we have school principals and teachers telling us how valuable these programs are for educational achievement. It's easy to see how we support those engaged in higher education. Just walk into a library, particularly the Central Library, and you will see students studying and researching. With a collection of almost 2 million books and other items, some added to the shelves in the 1860s when the library first opened, others hot off the presses from contemporary sources, our unique resources are consulted and used daily by scholars of all ages. Many of our targeted programs involve partnerships with other community organizations. Our purpose is to make a difference, and that means we often will do better by joining with others. So in the Rockwood Branch Library, we work with the Mount Hood and Portland Community Colleges with adults who want to improve their English, develop their reading and writing skills, or work toward their GED. Recent testing revealed that in the past academic year, at least 80% of the students in the program have gone up at least one level, with one student rising 3 levels in the past few months alone. There are stories of students going on to higher education and getting better jobs. Each of these activities I have just described can also be seen as contributing to workforce development. Libraries may not be leading the workforce development initiatives, but we are an important component of workforce development collaboratives. Second, the amazing opportunities of network technology. The very change that threatened to bury libraries has become one of our most important assets. Bill Gates saw this when he decided, as his first effort in philanthropy, to invest in libraries, not just near Microsoft headquarters, but throughout the United States and now in the international arena. A recent Gates Foundation report, published in collaboration with several leading nonprofit and government organizations, entitled Toward Equality of Access, the Role of Public Libraries in Addressing the Digital Divide, always have trouble with that, states, quote, drawing from government statistics and independent research, the report finds widespread acceptance of public library computer and internet access from patrons and librarians. But more importantly, the report finds that public access computing is benefiting those socioeconomic groups with the greatest need. However, the report notes urgent but manageable challenges facing libraries as they seek to maintain and further develop their role in providing access to digital information. This valued public service can only be sustained by the continued support of policymakers, librarians, and community advocates. Helping to bridge the digital divide has become an important role for libraries all across the United States. In 1996, just about 25% of public libraries provided access to the internet. By 2002, that percentage had jumped to 95%. In fact, for those who do not have internet access at home or in their workplace, public libraries are the #1 place for getting that access. This is even more true for low-income residents and minority groups. For libraries, though, it wasn't enough for us to just offer internet access. We knew that we needed to do more by actually offering training and guidance in using the internet. Throughout libraries such as ours, basic training on the use of computers and internet access has become a part of everyday business. These training opportunities are very popular, especially ones like our Cyber Senior program. Some people are now saying that the internet may not have put us out of business, but surely Google will. Not so fast. All of us, of course, use Google to find information on the internet. But libraries offer something that Google never will: real, live librarians to help our customers in person and online. Sure, some of them still sport buns, but you'll also find plenty with tattoos. All have a passion for helping customers learn how to evaluate websites, how to narrow searches, and when and how to look for information in other non-internet sources. I actually have a game I play with my husband when we're having a discussion and we need a fact. He goes to the computer and I go to the reference bookshelf. I usually win because I know when that answer is easy to find in a book. That's just one example of why librarians won't be replaced by Google. Third, meeting the needs of new members of our community, particularly new immigrants. This is one of the most challenging areas for libraries, but one which no doubt is an opportunity to reach people who can greatly benefit from our services. Learning and understanding new cultures is not easy, but it is absolutely necessary if we are going to be effective. In addition, there is the obvious challenge of communicating in languages other than English. Multnomah County Library currently targets 5 languages in our collections and printed materials: English, Spanish, Vietnamese, Chinese, and Russian. We give particular emphasis to reaching out to the Spanish speakers through our Libros initiative, employing bilingual staff and offering culturally sensitive programming and services throughout Multnomah County. We know, however, that while our track record is good, we have much more work to do in an effort to reach non-English speakers. The work that national leaders, such as the Queensboro Public Library in New York, really the home of the melting pot, have done in this area, shows us that if we invest in building bridges to these other language communities, that we will, in fact, be able to meet many informational, educational, and cultural needs. But the work is hard because public libraries often did not exist in the country of origin for these immigrants and refugees, and the role of the government in these countries is often not one that brings a level of trust to the new home country. I believe that there is great opportunity for us here in Multnomah County to help assist our new immigrant and refugee residents in the transition to adapting to their new home. But before we can do that, we must make sure that we can communicate and respect cultural differences. And fourth, the library as place. There is no doubt that we have lost many of the places that used to bring us together in our communities. Libraries have begun to take on this role in a much more proactive way in recent years. This loss of place and the opportunity for civic engagement that helps both build and bridge communities has been written about by Robert Putnam, first in Bowling Alone, and more recently in Better Together, Restoring the American Community. In this most recent publication, Putnam even devotes a chapter to branch libraries in Chicago, focusing on one in particular, the Near North Branch. This branch serves the public housing Cabrini Green area, which got a lot of notoriety a few years ago, as well as the Chicago's wealthiest community, one of Chicago's wealthiest communities, the so-called Gold Coast on Lake Michigan. As Putnam says, quote, "No longer a passive repository of books and information or an outpost of culture, quiet, and decorum in a noisy world, the new library is an active and responsive part of the community and an agent of change," end quote. Libraries have always presented programs that try to represent different points of view, offering citizens the opportunity to engage in discussions on issues of importance and interest. But with so few gathering places left in our neighborhoods, libraries have found that many people come to our buildings to find out what's happening and to meet others. Our meeting rooms continue to be heavily used by community organizations. In addition, we look for opportunities to present library-sponsored programs, such as a panel discussion we did last February on the USA Patriot Act, or our annual Juneteenth commemoration at the North Portland Library, and Dia de los Niños y Dia de los Libros, a celebration of childhood and bilingual literacy that happens each spring at 6 of our libraries. This program won an award in 2002, which allowed us to expand the program to include Russian, Vietnamese, and Chinese language celebrations in 2003 as well. Our experience in celebrating occasions like Asian and Native American Heritage Months have shown us that these events play a strong role in attracting a diverse audience who want to learn more about these cultures. This is exactly what we are trying to achieve as we help bridge from one community to another and deepen understanding of the richness of our many community cultures. I am excited about a new partnership that the library has undertaken with a number of other organizations: Portland Community College, Morrison Child and Family Services, Oregon Public Broadcasting, Portland State University, Hands on Portland, Eris Inc., Oregon AARP, Northwest Natural, many others. This is called the Life Options Initiative, and it will help the so-called third agers, those of us over 50, find direction and connection and navigate to meaningful roles, including sustained volunteerism and new careers in civic engagement, community leadership, and human services. This program is in early stages, but after an initial test period, should be an important initiative for those of us who are looking for what's next after a full career. We believe that the potential benefit to our community will be great. The final point I would like to make on building community and bridging community section is that we always do these programs in collaboration with other organizations. Although we often sponsor programs in our library, we frequently join with others in their programs rather than sponsor them ourselves. Perhaps the best illustration of the efforts to engage the greater community is our annual community reading project called Everybody Reads, which encourages everyone to read the same book around the same time of year. Most of you are probably familiar with this program because thanks to our many community partners in January and February of each year, it's ubiquitous. You see Everybody Reads on billboards, on banners, on buses, in bookstores, and many, many other places, including libraries, of course. This year, over 16,000 teens and adults read the 2004 book, Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury, joined in book discussions, and attended over 90 events. With numerous sponsorships brought in through the Library Foundation and community partnerships organized by library staff, Everybody Reads has wide visibility throughout the county and has become a national model. The 2005 Everybody Reads book is The House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros, a young Latina's poignant story of coming of age. We know that this program will be one of the many programming opportunities that will continue to help us bridge community. I'd like to conclude with a few comments and observations about my time here in Multnomah County. Please note that I say Multnomah County, not Portland, because I am acutely aware that the library system that I have the privilege to lead serves all of Multnomah County. This means that we at the library must always recognize that we serve a very diverse community as we make decisions. We were very fortunate to live in a community with such strong support and involvement by residents in our libraries. This support comes not only from the elected government leaders, but also from dedicated and involved 15-member library advisory board, charged with both advising the county commissioners and the library director. We are very pleased that we will soon be adding 2 youth members to this library advisory board. We are also fortunate to have an effective Friends of the Library organization, which works throughout the county as library advocates and supporters of many programs and services. The Library Foundation raises funds to enhance many of our programs and services and provides a way for individuals, foundations, and corporations to donate support beyond what our tax dollars can buy. If this level of support weren't enough, last year we had nearly 64,000 hours of volunteer service, the equivalent of about 32 additional full-time positions. One of the challenges that was staring me in the face from the day I arrived in December was how we should respond to the U.S. Supreme Court's decision regarding the Children's Internet Protection Act. or SEPA for short. As many of you may remember, Multnomah County decided to be one of the lead plaintiffs in the lawsuit to strike down this congressional act because the county believed that the decision of whether to filter internet access or not should be local, not federal. There was a strong belief by library and county officials that the federal government had gone too far and should not dictate how local jurisdictions would offer internet access. Though the suit was decided in favor of the plaintiffs initially, the U.S. Supreme Court upheld the constitutionality of the law a little over a year ago. Essentially, the court ruled that if a public library applied for federal telecommunication subsidies under the Universal Service or E-rate program, the library would have to filter internet access for everyone under the age of 17. The issue of filtering the internet access has certainly been a controversial issue in libraries virtually since we began providing that access. Since the Supreme Court's decision a year ago, many people have weighed in on how we should respond. The Library Advisory Board, which as I said is legally charged with advising the Board of County Commissioners as well as the library director, recommended that we not comply with SEPA, but that we do offer parents more control over their own children's access. After careful consideration, that recommendation, as well as many additional comments from library patrons and staff, I generally agreed with the recommendation and have forwarded it on to the Board of County Commissioners that we implement a plan that follows three very important principles of the library and the community. First, the right to open access to information. Second, the right and the responsibility of parents to make decisions for their own children. And third, the importance of libraries being a welcoming and safe environment for children. We believe that our recommendation strikes the right balance for the various positions and concerns that we have heard from all across the county. The board will consider the issue on August 12th, receive public testimony on it on the evening of August 24th, and expects to make a decision in September. Just as we listen to public concerns about the filtering issue, we believe that we must listen to public comments about other issues as well. We faced a situation with reduced revenues for the fiscal year we have just begun and have had to close a funding gap of over $2 million out of a $45 million budget. Our budget comes from two primary sources, both of which are dependent on property tax. In both cases, the property tax limitation measures 5 and 50 passed by Oregon voters had an impact on availability of revenues. The largest source of revenue for the library is the library levy, passed by voters in November 2002. Although some people think that the levy fully funds the library, it doesn't. It accounts for only 53% of the library's revenues. The second major source of funding for the library is the county's general fund. This source is based on what we call the fossil levy, that is the funding that supported the library about 10 years ago. This funding accounts for about 37% of the budget and has suffered from the reduced collection of property taxes and the hard choices that the county commissioners have had to make during these difficult financial times. The remaining 10% comes from fines and fees as well as grants and donations. Our public would clearly like more of everything, but these economic times will not permit that. So we had to make some difficult choices ourselves. It is clear that the financial situation will not get better anytime in the near future. After careful consideration and a survey of library users, we decided to reconfigure the hours we are open beginning August 29th, resulting in some good news, which is all libraries will be open 7 days a week, though Central and the 4 larger branches will have their overall hours trimmed. We believe that we have developed a set of hours that respond to what we know about our use statistics, as well as the results of over 4,000 completed surveys we received. When the economy improves, we will be ready to hire more staff and open more hours. Finally, I want to say thank you for the warm welcome that I have received since arriving here last December. I was attracted to this position not just because it is a well-supported library system, but primarily because it is a well-used library system. In fact, this past year, we have moved into the #1 position as the highest circulating library system in the country, with a circulation of 17.8 million. This is not only the highest circulation total, it's higher than much larger jurisdictions like Queens, New York, Los Angeles, California, Los Angeles County, and King County, but also the highest circulation per capita, with 26.6 per person. What's even better for taxpayers is that of the top 10 library systems in this compilation by the Urban Libraries Council, we are the most cost-effective. We owe this position to an incredibly dedicated and competent staff, a budget that allows us to meet the needs of our diverse community, a climate that supports and values libraries, and a strong and active group of library stakeholders in the Friends of the Library and the Library Foundation who work to make us even better. We also have elected officials who believe in the importance of libraries and continue to support us even when times get tough. I thank you for the opportunity to serve this great community and look forward to even greater achievements in the times ahead. There can be no doubt libraries really do matter in the 21st century. Thank you.
Well, good for us, Multnomah County, all the readers and the internet users. It's time for our question and answer period now, and I would like to mention that that is a privilege that's offered to City Club members only. John, did you fill out your application? In any case, our first question will be asked by Guinevere Milius, who's a member of the Board of Governors, and she's a partner in the Stevie and Milius marketing and identity and graphic design firm. She's also a co-founder and now a co-chair of the New Leaders Council. There is a microphone here for anyone else. You can begin lining up as soon as you like.
When most people think of libraries, they imagine quiet, studious places that you had mentioned earlier in your speech. My visits to the Central Library often challenge this notion with its coffee shop, its concerts, and its kids' craft sessions. It's clear that the purpose and culture of libraries is changing, at least in this city. What library traditions do you hope to preserve here in Multnomah County, and what will you expect to change in the near future?
This is a great library system, and when I came here, I've said to people before I got here and after I got here, you don't go in and try to fix something that's not broken. This library system was built by many people many of whom are still working at the library, many of whom have gone on elsewhere, and I certainly give a lot of credit to where we are to my predecessor, Jenny Cooper, and the others who have led this library system and the staff that have worked in them. It is hard to steer a library in a new direction when it's doing so well. But I did talk about some of the areas that I'm particularly interested in trying to find new ways to get resources to. One is to expand and enhance our outreach to communities that aren't using the library right now. As much use as we're getting, not everyone in Multnomah County is using the library. And in many cases, the libraries aren't accessible to people because they really don't know what they are and they don't know how we can help them. So I hope to expand what we're doing in outreach to communities that speak other languages, also to people who frankly think that libraries are only for people who have leisure time or are in college or graduate school, whatever it is. Libraries have a lot to offer everyone, and we really want to do much more reaching out to those communities. That's hard when you're so busy inside because people keep coming in. Another area is expanding our support and outreach to support small business. I'm a great believer that libraries contribute in a significant way to the economic health and vitality of the community, and one of the ways that we can do that is by providing support to small business in ways that we are not doing so now. So I hope to be able to do more in that area. Then, frankly, many of the programs that we're doing, I think they'll start to take some new directions as well as continue in the way we've been going. Our youth services programs are models in this country. I mean, we are cutting edge for what we're doing, particularly with, not just with the children coming into the library, but in the child care community. I often tell the story that my sister, who's in early childhood development in Boston, when she found out I was coming here, she shrieked over the telephone and she said, the library out there is just doing incredible things in reaching early childhood child care centers. So I think there are real opportunities to expand in those areas. And I really hope to have the library involved in many of the same kinds of missions, frankly, that the City Club has, of getting people to talk about things and to engage in civic discussion and discourse, and helping us become more a community than I think we're getting pushed into being.
Kurt Webering, librarians have long been defenders of open access and against censorship. And you mentioned the recent court cases. Could you go into some more depth about the thinking of why internet filtering is a problem in terms of access, and also the specifics of your proposals?
The problem with the internet is it's totally unregulated, as I think everyone probably knows, but it does mean that it's very hard to control what gets on it. So along came ways of doing that with filters, but filters are extremely imperfect ways of doing that. They filter out constitutionally protected speech for adults. They also filter out important sites for people of all ages. We just checked our filter, because when you go to a library now in Multnomah County, you get a choice of filtered or unfiltered access when you sit down. And the filter, which is one of the best that's out there, blocks the Portland Public Schools site for parents of teens, parent-teen site, I think it is. Now, that's a perfect example of a filter that's not working. It's over-blocking in areas. And there is no filter that filters out all obscenity, pornography, child pornography, but lets in all the other information. So that's the challenge. What my specific proposal is that for adults there will be no change. Adults, anyone 17 and over, will be able to sit at a terminal and make a choice of filtered or unfiltered. In our children's rooms, we have home pages and ways that we guide children. So those computers, frankly, even though they don't have filters on them and you could get around something, they really don't go around, but we will put filters on that. But all children have access to our other computers. And on those other computers, there will be two ways we'll do it. If children are under the age of 13, the default will be filtered, but an individual parent will be able to have it unfiltered for his or her children. From 13 through 16, the default will be unfiltered, but again, a parent will be able to make a decision to filter for his or her child. So we are giving more tools to parents, while at the same time not dictating. The SEPA compliance would require, under no circumstances, even if you felt strongly as a parent, would we be able to lift filtered access to your under 17-year-old. So that's what the proposal is, the specific proposal is. And we believe this strikes a balance between keeping open access, but at the same time giving more tools to parents and recognizing that there is concern about this issue in the community and great diversity of opinion, frankly.
Thank you. Press, Dr. Press, City Club member. The library, especially the central one, has to be open to everybody, and it is, and it's very useful. One of the problems is that it's also open to homeless people, panhandlers, felons, and others, which it has to be, and it's often helpful, especially in winter and cold weather and so on. But it's also can be a problem for various types of difficult behavior. I have not seen too much problem with it, but at the same time, do you have any comments on how you handle that problem and anything that you think the public can help you with in handling that problem?
One of the reasons that it's not as much of an issue here is because libraries are so heavily used here. In communities where libraries aren't heavily used, libraries are populated by many people who are homeless. However, I have to make it very clear that we as librarians and library workers serve everyone. And we serve people whether they own homes and pay taxes or not. If they're residents of our community, we serve them. So we have a commitment to serve them, serve people. What we look for is what we call problem behaviors. In other words, not categorizing people as homeless or not, or well-educated or not, but specifically looking at, are they exhibiting behaviors that are not acceptable behaviors in our library? At our central library, we do have several officers who are part of the sheriff's office, and they are very helpful in keeping that environment. And it's really part of their presence there that makes a difference, just sort of seeing them. They walk around the library, they walk around the outside of the library, and just make sure that people are, in fact, engaged in acceptable behavior in our library facilities. But I want to make it very clear that in no way, shape, or form would libraries ever require that you have a home in order to come into them. We are open to everyone.
Thank you.
Pat Rumor, City Club member. I was really interested in your comments about partnership, and so I'm going to direct a question there. I work in the area north of Burnside, the River District, and that includes Old Town Chinatown and the Pearl. And in Old Town Chinatown, there used to be a reading room that was operated by Multnomah County, and it still is missed and dearly loved and remains a high priority, in fact, for both neighborhoods to have, quote, a library in the neighborhood. Knowing what it costs to put up new libraries, I want to ask you, is there some creative thinking in terms of the kind of partnering that would allow, whether it's a return of a reading room or partnering between nonprofits or for-profits, et cetera, in terms of expanding the presence? Because I love your concept of place, but how do we get more of those places?
We'd be interested in talking and working with you and other people in the community. There are, frankly, 4 different neighborhoods in Multnomah County now that are trying to get their libraries back. In a couple of places, get them back. 5, actually I should count 5, or get new libraries there. And I think there is certainly the need, when the economy is right, to look at how we can restore in some places or build new in other places, like in Troutdale and East County, and also in North Portland. It is through partnerships that I think that can happen. So there may be a way that if a community organization has some place, a place, we might be able to figure out some way to work with deposit collections or other kinds of things like that. Also, our libraries often don't have enough space to have good-sized community rooms, meeting rooms, and so sometimes we're very dependent on nearby community organizations that do have space for doing some of our programs. So I think this is an opportunity for us to have conversations, and it is one of my real priorities to look at how we do that.
Hi, Susan Pierce, member and the daughter of a librarian. My question comes right on the heels of Pat. She asked part of my question. I'm also a member of the Hosford Abernathy Neighborhood Association. We hope we're on that list of neighborhoods. If not, we should be. We would like a library. We know where we want it. We have a place offered to us. We're interested in looking at a small satellite library, and I think would look and talk about creative ways of doing this, including volunteerism from within our community. So could you speak a little more about what shall we do?
It's very hard for us to have a library that is heavily run by volunteers. When I cited those volunteer numbers, those are people who come in and help us with our summer reading program, the great increase in workload that happens at that time, and a variety of other kinds of programs. The wonderful thing about being a volunteer, however, is that, you know, if your daughter is expecting a baby and the baby comes and you want to go spend 3 weeks with that new mother and daughter, you can just get on a plane and fly there, and volunteers have the right and option to do that. So we're very careful about how we use volunteers. We're happy to talk with and help you brainstorm about how to do something that might resemble some of the things the library offers. But for us, you know, we talk about free public libraries. They're free because you don't have to pay for them when you come in, but we do pay for them through our tax dollars. And if you look at the level of use in our libraries, I cited those statistics. Those statistics are enormous. Our staff, right now, one of the reasons that we had to cut back our hours some is that they are really working hard. And the volume of materials that come and go in our library facilities means that we really have to make sure we can deliver the services we have promised.
This will be our last question.
Thanks, Corleen. I'm Bill Crane, recently returned member of the City Club. I joined back this week. Judge Dale Koch, who's the chief judge of our circuit court here in the county, has worked so hard with his fellow judges to get jury service to be another hallmark of how great our county is. Recently, he and I were having a chat about one of the dreams I've had for a long time as somebody who has gotten called an abnormally large number of times for jury service. Could you make a little junior librariette in the jury room? Because so many folks get called for jury service, and it would just be wonderful to have a branch of the library in the jury room.
Well, having served on jury duty in my previous residence, I know exactly what you're talking about. And, you know, there may be some way we can at least try to work something out so there's something there that you can read while you're there. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Molly. I think we did well despite all the controversy surrounding her coming here. And it wasn't her coming here, it was the salary, as you may recall. In any case, don't forget, next Friday at the zoo, and we'll look forward to seeing you then. We are adjourned.